I am so excited to finally have a decent war team. And by war team, I mean an attacking team. This team has been working great for me so far in war, while this team and a second team that is basically the same team except I have subbed out Lily for Cole. And the way that this team functions is that basically on turn 2, I use Diego to defense down and impair everyone on the other team. This team works a lot better if I utilize Cole, just in case they run a human shield. Then I'm able to usually taunt them in order to apply that defense down and impair to the center toon and all enemies adjacent. With this team, I also have the ability to stun the enemy because I run stun on attack weapons on both Diego and on Glenn. I also have daze on Priya, which can be super useful. Now, people might be iffy on Cole just because, it's only a turn 1 taunt, but I actually crafted his weapon a bit differently so that if I need it, I can also taunt on turn 2. Everyone on this team also has a large stun resist mod. That way I can still attack toons that have stun guns and at least have a chance of not becoming stunned. And this type of mod is great on toons like Priya and James, who use basic attacks in their multi-attack rush, because stun is one of the only ways that their rush can be stopped once it's started, other than absolute defense. So the weapon that I put on Cole, I crafted him a 20% AP weapon to self, so that on the first turn, he can use his active skill to taunt the enemy. Then on turn 2, if I attack, I can then command him in order to taunt 3 more enemies and use attack down. So currently I've been noticing there's been a lot of teams that have a window in them. And by a window, I mean that there's a toon that I can safely attack in order to build AP on. In many cases, this is Pete, because he has that weapon that gives bonus HP to everyone at the start of the match. In my opinion, this is actually a hindrance because it's allowing me to gain enough AP on the first turn in order to use Diego to defense down everyone on the second turn. Now, this first attack here isn't as clean as I would like it, but you can kind of get the general idea on how I go about attacking these teams. And I know that in the future, this team is only going to get better for me just because I don't have S-Class Priya yet. So right now, I'm running Glenn, who's a Generation 1 commander. I'm running him because he can hold a stun weapon, his rush gives plus 65% attack and defense, and he's able to recover bleed with his active skill. Diego, who is the newest piece to my puzzle, he has a leadership skill for a huge bonus to AP when attacking and plus 40% attack to all tough and strong toons, which works perfectly with Priya and James. Next, I have Cole, who's mostly there just for some control because of his taunt ability, both with his active skill and with his rush. James is a heavy damage dealer, and so is Priya. This team just gives me a lot of different options, and even if I don't have a trade advantage, I'm able to leverage my team enough that it can apply enough damage and control in order to beat most teams. Now, it is difficult sometimes because RNG is sometimes just not nice and friendly, and running a team without a disarm toon can be quite dangerous, but that's also why I have stun resist mods on every single toon on this attack team. I think one of my favorite parts about my attack team right now is that it's completely free to play. So Diego right now you can get from comic books, and I save my comics for the past, 3, 4, 5 months. So I was able to get him that way. He's also in the war wheel right now, and in my opinion, he is one of the best leaders out there, if not the best. Next, Cole, I got him in a couple war wheels. I have 2 of him actually, so I have one with plus 20% AP and a typical one with disarm on him. With Glenn, he appears in the supply depot, and I think you can ascend to get him. So he is readily available. Again, he's a Generation 1 toon, so he's nothing really that special. He's just good at his specific job. Next, Priya is available to everyone if they can collect cones. As I mentioned, I'm running a 6-star Priya. I don't even have an S-Class one, but as you can see, my team's fairly effective, even using Priya as a 6-star. and that's mostly because of her weapon ability. So Daze I find to be super useful because it prevents toons from being able to use their active skill, and some active skills are just crazy good. Like you get revives, you get healing, you get defense, you get taunt. There's just a variety of different abilities that you're able to nullify. And then James, of course, you either got to pick James or you got to pick Krista. I went with James, and I am really happy with my decision. The amount of damage that he can output, especially when you factor in minus 65% defense to the enemy, and then plus 65% attack if I'm able to rush Glenn as well. And it just makes matches really short and sweet. Now, something else that I've been contemplating, and after watching some of my film right now actually, it has me thinking where I see my James actually gets impaired quite a bit. And I guess the only way in order to utilize that would be to add an attack up when impaired mod instead of an attack up when taunted mod. And it is an option, and I'm contemplating it now, and it's kind of a hit or miss. Like right now I have attack up when impaired on my Sean, but I feel like it would be used more by James now because I'm using this as my main attack team, and the frequency of James hitting a toon that ends up impairing him is much higher than a toon taunting him at this point, just because if there is a toon that can use an active taunt, I can daze them. If I see that someone's about to use a taunt rush, I have different options to stop it. I can use taunt off of Cole. I can try impairing them with Diego. I can use focus off of Diego because of his active skill. I can use Glenn to confuse or to stun. I can try to kill them with Priya or James. It just seems like there's a lot more options, but James is kind of a wild card sometimes because with his rush, if he ends up killing his initial target, the next target that he attacks is a random target. So it becomes very difficult to control and predict, and that's the same issue that I run into with Priya. And a couple matches ago, I'm sure you noticed where my Priya ended up triggering Negan's payback, and basically half my team just blew up, and I think I only had Cole left at the end. And that can be really frustrating because you need to find a good balance between speed in attacking the enemy, but you also need to have enough control so that you have most of your toons still up in order to maximize the number of points that you have. Like, I am okay with one toon dying, maybe even two, because in some cases, it might take me an extra 30, 45 seconds in order to save that character or prevent them from dying. But I would rather move on to the next target in order to stay on pace with everyone else, or ahead of pace. In war, time is your biggest asset and your biggest problem, because it's always going to keep on going and ticking, and you don't know if the opponent might decide to dogpile you first. You need to get those attacks off really quickly, and you need to be efficient with it, because the only way you win wars is by killing. You can defend all you want, but it's not going to score you points unless you're successful in attacking. Personally, I don't have a good defense. My defense is kind of mediocre, and that's why I'm relying so heavily on my attack. Right now, I'm still about 3,000 keys away from getting even SP'd. I am, I think, about 3,000 away from getting my S Priya, and I'm going to be able to get my second Priya, so I'm super excited about that, just because right now I'm at 3 arrows. If I get a 4th arrow, then I get 1,000 S-class items. And so in the first phase of the Last Words event, I made sure that I ended up getting 3 arrows because I can only imagine this getting more difficult in the later phases. So by getting those 3 off the bat, I have 6 more chances to acquire 1 additional arrow. Now, as you see, I do sometimes switch over to Lily, as I mentioned before, and part of that's just because having a disarm can be really useful sometimes, especially if someone has a bunch of taunt resist mods, or if I need her 100% heal reduction active skill with the stun, because that's almost a guaranteed stun if they don't have a stun resist. Her rush is also super useful because it's able to remove all positive status effects from the enemy. So if Kapoor, for instance, rushes and gives everyone plus 80% defense, by rushing Lily, I'm able to remove that bonus. Or if there is a Negan, I can remove that 100% defense bonus that he gives to all other toons except for himself. Now, I would love to hear from all of you on what you think of my attack team. And if you have any suggestions, I am very open to hearing them because I want to make this team better, of course. I've thought about using Xander instead of Glenn just because his rush is able to add AP, take away AP, and impair. And then his active skill is an active disarm, which again has its uses, especially in a windowless team, or if there's a human shield that has a stun gun or an impair weapon. Because if I was able to disarm that on turn 2, if I am unable to focus around that human shield, then Xander would definitely have a perfect position in this team. So I am aware that there are other toons that can definitely be used. The only toons that I think are kind of irreplaceable for this team are Diego and Priya. So this is me saying, if you can get Diego, please get him. There are so many combinations that you can run with him. And if you're able to get Priya, these two just combo so well together. There are so many options that you can use for the command toon. Like you can use Glenn as I do. You can use Xander, who was in the season store. There's really any command toon that can be utilized in this position because it's not an AP gain position. It's basically allowing you to rush that turn early in order to either apply control, defense down, impair, rush Priya, rush James. There's just so many different options here, and I love having these options. If you have been paying attention to how I've been attacking in the background, I know it's at like 2 times the normal speed. It's just so that I could fit in enough videos to kind of give you an idea of a variety of different teams that I can take on with this team and the different variations. So here I'm using Priya as a lead. I'm using that follow-up Morgan because I think he's a really good toon, and I can see myself using him on the Diego team. It would be in very specific conditions where, say, there's a ton of red toons, and I've been struggling on the team, but there's no revivers. Morgan, in my opinion, is a great option because he has the follow-up ability, which gives him an additional turn if he kills an enemy. And if Diego defense downs the opponent by 65%, Morgan has a chance of getting a kill. And whenever he gets a kill, he has a 50% chance to gain 100% AP. By running a command toon on this team, I could rush Morgan up to 3 times in a single turn. Anyway, thank you everyone for watching and listening to my video. I hope you enjoy seeing me war just a little bit and kind of my mentality and how I go about attacking different teams with this pretty new team. Because I had this team in mind, but I've never been able to put it together. And now that it's finally coming together, I love seeing the potential of it. So let me know in the comments below what you think of my attack team and how I could improve it. Thanks again for watching and listening.